Welcome to the Cup of Joe Wrestling Show.
Cup of Joe Wrestling Show?
With Joey Harris. A podcast for the wrestling fan on the go. So take your favorite beverage of choice and join Joey as he takes a look at some of the biggest shows on the WWE Network.
Welcome to the Cup of Joe Wrestling Show. I'm your host, Joey Harris, and we are broadcasting from makeshift studios in the shadow of South Central Virginia. Follow the show on Twitter and Blue Sky at Cup of Joe Pod. Email the show at cupofjoewrestlingshow@gmail.com. Support the show at paypal.me/cupofjoepod. And if you want to support the show, I'm also on Cash App and Venmo at The Joey Harris. And of course, Patreon.com/BabyKangaroo Media for bonus episodes of the Cup of Joe Wrestling Show, the Joey Harris Super Show, the Green Room, Book Club Baristas, and so much more. Just $5 a month for hours of extra content. Just recorded yesterday as I record this, the Joey Harris Super Show for June with Tyler and TJ. Had a great time with that. And folks, if you use the promo code Joey, you'll get 20% off your first month subscription, but just $5 a month for so much more. And I talked about on the last show how, as I'm recording, I'm trying to get ahead for the summer because I've got a lot of traveling that I'm doing, that it's hard to keep up with the news. As I was sitting down to record this, I was going to talk about R-Truth and Carlito being released, but I just saw that Valhalla has also been released. But I don't know. I'm sure WWE and TKO know what they're doing. Again, we talked about it before. It's the wrestling business. It's not the wrestling friends. So my best wishes to those who have been released. I hope they bounce back, learn from this, go out and just claim it. Make this the best moment of your life, and my best wishes to all of you. As today we take a look at Slamboree 95 from WCW. Slamboree 95 was shown on pay-per-view on May the 21st, 1995 from the Bayfront Arena in St. Petersburg, Florida. There were 7,000 in attendance. We start out with our intro. Eric Bischoff, Bobby Heenan, and Mean Gene Okerlund welcome us to Slamboree and run down some of what we are going to see. Bischoff is filling in for Tony Schiavone, who was getting neck surgery. This is also the last WCW pay-per-view for Gary Michael Capetta, who would shortly depart the company. WCW World Tag Team Championship match, Harlem Heat, Booker T, and Stevie Ray with Sister Sherri versus the Nasty Boys, Brian Knobbs and Jerry Sags. Sags comes to the ring alone. The announcers wonder where Knobbs is. Sags says he will take them both on. This is because the Blue Bloods had attacked the Nasty Boys before on the main event. It takes a while for it to get started. Sags and Booker start. All Sags to start. He knocks Booker down. He runs Booker and Stevie's heads together. Double DDT to Harlem Heat. Sherri gets up on the ring apron and Sags hits her to knock her off. Bischoff says it was uncalled for, even as the crowd loved it. Sags gets a 2 count on Booker. Booker comes back and Stevie tagged in. Back and forth. Sags with a leg drop. Booker breaks up a pin attempt. Sags hits an elbow drop for a 2 count. Sherri goads Sags to the outside. Sherri and Booker attack Sags on the outside. Booker hits a flying forearm to Sags. Booker with a rear chin lock. Booker with a spring heel kick. Stevie tagged in and hit a drop kick. Booker tagged in and hit the Harlem Hangover. Harlem Heat are quick tagging. Sags catches Booker with a quick pile driver as an injured and taped up Brian Knobbs hobbles to ringside. The crowd loves it. Stevie and Knobbs tagged in, and Knobbs is a house of fire. He bulldogs Booker and backdrops Stevie out of the ring and slams Sherri when she tries to interfere. Knobbs slams Booker and Sags hits the elbow drop to get the pin, and we have new tag champions. The Blue Bloods come out and look at the champions. Eric Bischoff interviews the Nasty Boys. They say they did what they said that they were going to do. Mean Gene talks to Kevin Sullivan about taking on the former Butcher. Sullivan says he told Butcher not to show up. This is a strange interview. Sullivan says it's cold in the room. Grudge match. Kevin Sullivan versus the man with no name. I'm going to call the man with no name Ed Leslie. Leslie attacks Sullivan right away. He beats Sullivan down outside and then rolls Sullivan in. He then chokes Sullivan in the corner. He runs Sullivan into the turnbuckle. He then chops Sullivan. Leslie puts the sleeper on. Sullivan drops down. It goes back outside. And Sullivan attacks Leslie. Back and forth. Leslie does his version of hulking up. Leslie hits a pile driver. He gets a close 2 count. It goes back outside. They brawl some and then head back in the ring. Leslie with a clothesline. He misses a corner charge. Leslie put in the Tree of Woe. And Sullivan hit a running knee to get the pin. King Curtis Iakea is then shown as the master on the screen, and Sullivan leaves via the crowd. Mean Gene talks to Hulk Hogan, Randy Savage, and Jimmy Hart. They are ready for Ric Flair and Vader. This goes on way too long. Angelo Poffo then talks about getting into the Hall of Fame. Legends match, Dick Murdoch versus Chief Wahoo McDaniel. This match is shown in black and white, and Gordon Solin joins Bobby Heenan on commentary. The bell rings and they circle each other. They lock up and drive to the corner and break. McDaniel with an arm drag. Another arm drag by McDaniel. Murdoch with a charge to McDaniel in the corner. McDaniel gets Murdoch in the corner and chops Murdoch down. Another lock up. Back and forth with shots and chops. They hit some hard shots. Murdoch backs off in the corner. Murdoch then gets McDaniel down and drops an elbow on McDaniel. Murdoch gets on the top rope and drives McDaniel down to the mat on his knee and gets a 2 count. McDaniel fights back with a chop to the throat to get the pin. Mean Gene interviews Big Bubba Rogers. He says he beat Sting once and knows he can do it again, and that will be the end of Sting in WCW. IWGP Championship match, the Great Muta versus Paul Orndorff. It takes a while to get started. The bell rings and they circle each other. They exchange holds and counters. Orndorff with a hammerlock. Muta counters out of it. Muta with a side headlock. Muta with a side kick to knock Orndorff out of the ring. Muta with a side headlock takeover. Orndorff comes back with a short clothesline. They trade moves and Muta with a head scissors. Back and forth. Orndorff on offense. He throws Muta out and then follows and chokes Muta with a camera cord. Orndorff suplexes Muta into the ring. Orndorff for the rear chinlock. Muta tries to get out. He gets to his feet and strikes Orndorff. Muta misses a drop kick when Orndorff holds on to the ropes. Orndorff with a front face lock. Muta with an inverted atomic drop. He hits a short clothesline and an elbow drop. They trade shots. Orndorff with a snapmare for a 2 count. Muta backdrops out of a pile driver attempt and hits a side kick. Muta with a springboard back elbow. Muta hits the moonsault to win. We get a feature on the next match, and then Mean Gene talks to Arn Anderson, Ric Flair, and Vader. Anderson puts down Alex Wright. Flair says he's going to unleash Vader on Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage. Vader says it's Vader time. Terry Funk talks about going into the Hall of Fame. WCW World Television Championship match. Arn Anderson versus Alex Wright. Wright comes out to almost no reaction. Anderson comes out looking all business. The belt is presented. The bell rings and they circle each other. They lock up and drive to the corner. Wright with a side headlock. Anderson pushes off, but Wright goes down and back to the side headlock. Anderson pushes off again and gets hit with a drop kick and a side headlock takeover. Anderson comes back with shots to the midsection. Back and forth. Anderson with a side headlock takeover. Anderson gets a single leg, but Wright comes back with a drop kick. Wright goes back to the headlock. Anderson with a knee to the midsection. Wright gets the STF on. Anderson gets to the ropes. Anderson rolls out to regroup. Wright hits a tope to Anderson. He runs Anderson into a ring post. He throws Anderson in the ring. Wright with an armbar. Wright with a hammerlock. Anderson with an elbow to the head. Wright with a series of European uppercuts. Anderson with a spine buster, but he doesn't cover. Wright catapulted into the bottom rope. He drops a foot on the throat. Anderson works on the arm. Wright pushes off a figure 4 attempt. Wright with a spin wheel kick and a suplex. He hits a top rope drop kick for a 2 count. They trade 2 counts. Anderson hits a DDT to get the pin. Bonus match. Road Warrior Hawk versus Ming with Colonel Robert Parker. Hawk with a tremendous ovation when he comes out. They beat on each other. Ming with the early advantage. He punches and kicks Hawk. Hawk no-sells a pile driver. Hawk misses a corner charge when Ming moves and hits the ring post with his shoulder and falls to the floor. Ming stops Hawk from getting in. Parker attacks Hawk on the outside. Ming runs Hawk into another ring post. Ming hits a backbreaker. He gets a 2 count. Back and forth. Hawk hits the clothesline. Hawk with a shoulder block for a 2 count. He hits a corner whip and a clothesline. Hawk slams Ming. He misses a top rope splash. It goes outside and they chop each other and get counted out. Security and wrestlers out to break up the two. Eric and Bobby talk about the Hall of Fame, and then Gordon Soley presents the 1995 Hall of Fame participants. They are Chief Wahoo McDaniel, Terry Funk, Angelo Poffo, Antonio Inoki, Big John Studd, Dusty Rhodes, and a surprise induction for Gordon. Soley is surprised and actually quit WCW after this over Poffo getting inducted due to Randy Savage insisting on it. Cody Rhodes is shown on screen along with his sister Teal for Dusty Rhodes' induction. Mean Gene interviews Sting. He tells Bubba Rogers that this will not be a repeat of Uncensored. Lights out match, Sting versus Big Bubba Rogers. Rogers out first. Sting comes out to a tremendous ovation. He brings the table to the ring. The crowd is solidly behind Sting. It takes a while to get started. Rogers yells at the crowd. Rogers with a wrist lock. Sting comes back with an elbow and a drop kick. Rogers comes back with a running clothesline and chokes Sting with his tie. Sting gets out and hits another drop kick. The crowd is solidly on Sting's side. Rogers attacks Sting. Sting with an Irish whip and a takedown for a 2 count. Rogers throws Sting out and runs Sting into the ring steps. Rogers grabs the table, but Sting throws Rogers down on it. He then slams Rogers on the table again. Sting sets the table on its side. Rogers throws powder into Sting's eyes and throws Sting into the table. He then brings Sting and the table into the ring and slams Sting into it again. The table is set up in the corner. Sting with a backdrop and slams Rogers onto the table. Rogers moves on a Stinger splash attempt and Sting hits the table. Rogers takes his belt off and whips Sting with it. He gets a 2 count. He misses a top rope splash. Sting slams Rogers and hits a splash for a 2 count. Back and forth. Sting puts the table on Rogers and stomps on it. Sting puts the Scorpion Deathlock on and Rogers submits. We get a feature on the main event. The Monster Maniacs, Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage with Jimmy Hart, and the Renegade versus Ric Flair and Vader with Arn Anderson. Jimmy Hart is a pro here. His mother died in an accident on her way to this show, and the man still went out and did his job. Michael Buffer makes the introductions. The heels come out to a mixed reaction. The faces come out to cheers, but not as many as I thought that they would get. Someone comes through the curtain after the faces for a moment, but you can't really tell who it is. The Renegade comes out and the heels bail. Angelo Poffo is shown on the front row. It takes some time to get started. Hogan and Vader start. They lock up and vie for position. They break and circle each other and lock up again. Vader with lefts and rights to Hogan. They trade blows. Hogan hits Vader with a clothesline. Vader goes outside and Savage hits him with a double axe handle. Vader thrown in. Savage tagged in. Vader throws Savage out and Flair attacks Savage on the outside. Flair tagged in and he and Savage battled in the ring. Flair is selling his ass off. He's bumping for everyone. The heels roll out to regroup. Flair attacks Savage with a thumb to the eye and corner chops. Savage comes back and tags Hogan in. He hits Flair with a backdrop and a clothesline. Flair with a thumb to the eyes and the snap mare. Flair goes up top but gets caught and slammed off, so take a shot if you're drinking at home. Hogan with a figure 4 and he just looks awkward doing it. Anderson interferes and Flair hits Hogan with a low blow. Vader tagged in and kept Hogan down. The man comes back out and it's Paul White, the future giant. Vader hits Hogan with a suplex, which Hogan no-sells. Vader hits a backdrop and Flair chokes Hogan, all 4 men in. Vader splashes Hogan in the corner. Vader hits a Vader bomb to Hogan. He misses the second one. Flair and Savage tagged in. They go back and forth. Flair hits a back elbow. He goes up top and gets slammed off again. Anderson pulls Savage out of the ring. Savage attacked by Vader on the outside. Renegade takes on Anderson. Flair gets Savage down on the mat. Vader hits a moonsault on Savage for a 2 count. Vader tagged in. He chops Savage in the corner. They collide in the ring and both men are down. Hogan tagged in. Hogan with corner mounted punches. Hogan slams both Vader and Flair down. Hogan with a big boot to Flair. He goes for the leg drop, but Anderson grabs Hogan's leg. Vader with a splash to Hogan. Flair gets a 2 count. Hogan hulks up. Anderson goes for a double axe handle, but Hogan moves and Flair gets hit instead. Hogan hits the leg drop and gets the pin. Hogan must pose. Fireworks go off, but they continue to fight. Heels attack the faces and then attack Angelo Poffo when he comes in. Flair puts the figure 4 on Poffo. Heels finally bail and Savage yells for an ambulance as they sign off. Final thoughts. Weird show, but the Hall of Fame was nice. You can follow me on Facebook, Threads, and Instagram at The Joey Harris. If you like the show, please leave a review on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, or your preferred podcast app. I would really appreciate it. We can also be found on Spotify and YouTube. Just search for The Cup of Joe Wrestling Show, and don't forget to hit subscribe. Thank you for joining me. This is Joey saying so long from the heart of Virginia.
The Cup of Joe Wrestling Show is a production of Baby Kangaroo Media.